Hello, my name is Jason Anthony Crawford. I'm here with, and tell people what your name is rather.
Brian Armand.
Mr. Brian Armand, just brief, wanted to come to everyone and do our part with this new movement and the shift and change in today's society. We wanted to have a place where people can communicate and have open and free dialogue. Very loose dialogue as it is, but we wanted to make sure that we answer some questions and talk about topics that are uncomfortable to some, especially with everything that's going on now and how social media has really changed the climate of the United States and the way we think and the way information is brought to our attention. Just pretty much, like again, me and Brian just pretty much wanted to talk. You have an African American gentleman, you have a Caucasian man, two different walks of life, but we're here to be able to discuss and create dialogue and try to create some sort of a change or to enlighten some. Of course, we'll be going over various topics throughout the week, and we're also going to educate a lot. I mean a lot, because there was things that Brian was mentioning to me in regards to the electoral votes. People use that word loosely and talk about voting, but people do not really know where the
concept comes from.
Where the whole concept comes from.
How it was created.
Mm-hmm. Even this whole aspect when everybody's talking about systemic racism. If you really read and looked into the Constitution and looked into everything
and the history
surrounding it, you will see. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to try to create a platform to where people are able to talk and freely express themselves, and we'll have visitors and things of that nature coming in to talk. And speaking of racism, it's funny because we talk about that term racism, and people use it loosely.
I think it's overused.
I definitely get it, but when you look at the main definition or the main concept of, what racism is pretty much prejudice, discrimination, or some sort of antagonistic direction towards a person that you have power over, or that you think that you have a superiority complex.
Well, that's the thing. It's the superiority aspect of it that I think people have a tendency to ignore, and therefore use the word too much.
Mm-hmm.
And in using it too much, it kind of devalues the word, I think. Racism, the true definition of racism, definitely has a discrimination related to superiority aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just a discrimination, just because I don't like you, it's called xenophobia. Now, maybe because xenophobia isn't as easy a word
right,
to use, they don't use that word very much. But there's a distinction, and again,
mm-hmm.
and my feeling is if you apply a word to situations that it should not be applied, you kind of reduce the value of it. But that's my thing.
So you have xenophobic and you have racist.
Correct.
And again, we just really need to make sure we know these definitions and use them correctly, because a lot of times when you're discussing things with people, if you do not use the correct words, people may look at you different and say, oh, wait, he's using incorrect diction, or he's using the incorrect vocabulary to express. And so that's when you turn into people expressing themselves with anger, with protests and things of that nature, with fighting, and with, different items of, cause and effect. So I really wanted to go over and talk about the elephant in the room, and that's our latest shooting that happened in Minnesota.
Mr. George Floyd. Oh, no, it wasn't the shooting. It was the...
Look, and that's another thing. We're so numb. We're pretty much desensitized with this whole aspect. I'm talking about a shooting because I'm so used to seeing someone get shot. The gentleman, Mr. Floyd, that had a neck on his neck
had a knee on his neck
for 8 minutes and some odd, using a technique that some of the officers use. What I wanted to talk about, and it's so funny that the first thing came out of my mouth was a shooting.
Yeah. You just kind of fall into that easily.
We're so desensitized with that. It's just funny because, like I said it before, do we even have any realistic tolerance levels at all anymore? Because we're seeing this in front of our eyes. So I wanted to go over, when this happened, Mr. Floyd being murdered over something petty. I wanted to know what happened when you first saw this, because when I look at it, a lot of times people see these quote unquote modern day lynchings, and like I stated before, they get used to it.
Yes.
Where is the humanity? You're seeing someone die right in front of your eyes, and you think it's okay. Oh, well, he must have done something. And I really wanted to know, because coming from you, you're a Caucasian man, you're Greek, attorney by law in a sense, or used to attorney attorney. Just your journey. You're looking at things through a different lens. So I wanted to get your reaction when you first saw that. What came to mind?
I mean, I was shocked. It was abhorrent to me, but the one aspect of it that disturbed me the most, for whatever reason, was the look on the police officer's face. He had this arrogant look about him that was just shocking to me. Mm-hmm. Here there were people all around him that were questioning what he was doing. And instead of taking to heart what they said, he got angry. He had this look. How is it that you can question what I'm doing? I'm a policeman. I'm doing my job. And at one point, I couldn't see exactly what he was doing, but the narration that I heard on the video was that he was pulling out a mace can because people were filming him and questioning what he was doing. I mean, how could anyone that has any ounce of humanity have been doing what he was doing without wondering, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong?
I mean, and it's good to hear this from you because, you're an older Caucasian gentleman, so you're around some of this stuff. And I know that we talked about it before. A lot of people are in their bubbles and they do not realize that this happens. You got to realize the media has been pushing an agenda, and they set a narrative in regards to black people, or black, brown people. And the media has a lot to do with everything, because you got to realize that when you see these things on TV, the first thing, oh, he must have done something. Now, when I'm looking at it, I thought the police were trained to de-escalate the situation, to calm people down. Police are trained, or supposedly trained, to not act off of impulse, but when things happen, they always say, hey, well, it was a road cop, it was random, he acted off of emotions. But
they're always fearful for their lives.
They're fearful for their lives.
And to me, someone who is supposed to be trained in this kind of a thing, they get scared awfully easily, and this business, and react and not in this situation, but in certain situations that I've seen, you'll have 5 policemen standing around a black gentleman who has been apprehended. He's up against the wall, and he makes a motion, he does something.
And they shoot.
But they don't shoot him once or twice. They shoot him 15, 16, 25 times.
Sometimes you have to shoot, because the way the media is pushing this fear and pushing it on us, apparently we have these superpowers. And I mean, number one, training has to be reevaluated.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
Military personnel, they tend to don't shoot unless you're shot upon, and things of that nature. But I mean, with the leadership that we have, what is our president? He calls it the president of law and order, or something of that nature. I mean, it's disheartening that to this day, the lack of humanity in some people, always assuming that we have these superpowers. I mean, I talked about it before. Trayvon Martin, the gentleman who was jogging in Atlanta,
right?
The aspect of Michael Brown, the hands up, don't shoot situation, where you had the gentleman, when he went to court, he was saying that I saw the devil in his eyes. Automatically, you have cops being placed in communities that they know nothing about. Well, back in the days, I mean, I remember there were 1 or 2 cops that were from that community. What happened to that? What happened to that tactic? Because what happens is you're placing people in communities and they don't know these officers.
They have no connection
to it. And people got to realize from history, the original purpose of the police officer was to be an overseer. We were considered property.
Back in the slave days.
We were the property. So people don't understand, there's always been a disconnect with officers, and there's been a disconnect with black and brown people connected to the police department per se.
But in this general context, you also have this culture in the police department itself protect ourselves at
Yep.
all costs.
Yep. What do they call
Lie.
it? The blue shield. The blue
Yes.
shield.
It's obfuscate, lie, don't give the true facts because the true facts will make us look bad, and we can't look bad.
At all.
Lying to protect each other, and this has to change.
And this,
There has to be accountability.
man, listen, that's what I said. There has to be accountability. The laws that apply to us are not the same laws applied to police officers. And we always hear, we're not, this blue shield, but when they interview people of color after a crime, we need you to testify. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. But cops don't speak out on their own partners under that blue shield that they
Right.
know commit heinous acts. And they're always talking about one rogue bad cop doesn't mess up the bundle or mess up the whole police department. But when you talk about protesters, there's looters, there's rioters, they say, oh, it diminishes your whole march, your whole message.
Yeah, but
then you can't say one protester or one looter messes up the whole message, because at the same time, again, you have the cops protecting their own. So when people don't come up, when blacks don't come up and testify, oh, well, they don't testify, they may possibly be protecting their own. So which one is it? There's a double standard. Why is it that there's nothing in place to help hold the police officers that are rogue accountable
Right.
for actions towards black and brown people? What happened more than not?
And even in this instance, I read what I understand was kind of the official account of what happened to Mr. Floyd, and it was so sanitized that it almost was, I couldn't recognize what it was I was reading. And then, of course, the first official autopsy really downplayed the asphyxiation aspect until the independent autopsy was done. And then they changed the official autopsy narrative.
So
what is this?
the system, and people talk about the system, and they say that so loosely, and we'll talk about that tomorrow in regards to where all this stuff started, this systematic racism. But when you look at it, the different topics that come up, this morning they said, oh, he had COVID-19 all of a sudden, and now they're going to use that to try to keep those officers from getting charged. COVID-19, first they said he was on drugs, but I know that you had mentioned something about you cannot use, what was the law that you were saying?
Well, no, I was talking
Not
about it in
necessarily
general
law,
terms, not in a criminal sense, but in a civil sense. If you are being sued for personal injury, you have to take the victim as he is. If he has an underlying condition that exacerbates the injury, you're responsible for the extent of the injury.
Right.
Because the thing that you did caused the series of events that resulted in him being more hurt than he would have been. So it isn't. You can't say, well, you were hurt anyway, or you had this condition that ended up hurting you more. You can't use that as a defense. But I don't know that it applies in a criminal sense.
Right.
Given if the cause of death is something other than the incident. But frankly, in my mind, again, if what he did aggravated the overall situation and the guy ended up dying, I think you should be responsible.
But like when I mentioned, we see all this stuff unfolding in media. Imagine if they didn't have this cell phone. Imagine if other people didn't. And people think that this is happening recently. This has been going on since the dawn of time. You have comedians like Eddie Murphy, Red Fox talking about don't go in certain areas at certain parts of in the evening because they can blame you for anything. When I say they, the powers that be. And like we always say, it's not everybody, but people, you need to start feeling uncomfortable to find out the truth, because when you go into the video cameras and everyone's showing cameras and everyone has their camera out and they're displaying what they're seeing in front of them, from looters to rioters that don't look like us, and they're putting Black Lives Matter and all these different movements up, and they expect people to act a certain way, when you're realizing you're looking out there and you're seeing these black folks and these people of color defending or even attacking some of these antagonists that are going into these riots and going into these peaceful protests and causing drama. You see the cops messing up their cars.
That's another issue altogether here, and it's exacerbated, I think, by the social media thing. and the fact that everybody has access to display
And
anything
everyone
they
has
want
a
to
voice.
display. Because I don't, and frankly, I don't know for a fact,
Right.
but I don't know if in years gone by, if you had a political protest of some kind or a civil rights protest, et cetera, that you had all these disparate groups that had have other agendas come in and do their thing and mess things up, trying to make the people who have a legitimate beef
Argument.
trying to make them look bad.
And that's why I said when I say we, people of color, people, the less fortunate, the unheard voices, the voices that don't have the people that aren't able to speak out, that don't have the money, the attorneys to defend them, poor people, because like I said, it's not only a racial issue, it's a class structure issue. There's always going to be the have and the have-nots, but we're dealing with it to where a lot of times everyone knows black folks are blamed for so much stuff. And if you look at what's going on now, black, brown people are blamed for so many different things. And I didn't even talk, I've been in numerous places of employment where if something comes up missing, hey, Jason, do you know where the equipment's at? And you're sitting there like, did you just ask me something like that? Chris Rock said, that's the most racist, question that you can ask someone. But when I look at it, this accusing black folks, we had the incident with the young lady in the park who was choking the shit out of her dog. And started saying, she weaponized being black. I'm going to use your African American stature, your African American label to say that you attacked me.
Yeah.
You're attacking me. And that was caught on tape. Now imagine you have Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we'll talk about that. You have Emmett Till, numerous people, some people, and imagine all the stuff that's not on tape. Imagine the people in corporate America that didn't get shot.
Well,
imagine people, I've been accused of things, and it's like, where's the proof? But now we have proof, and people are so inherently like trying to have a blind eye to what they see in front of them. And it's what kills me is the media and a lot of people, they want to speak up, they want to say something, but you have social media and silence. And it hurts me more than anything because I have friends that I know dearly that are silent, that aren't speaking out. And what makes it bad is these are white folks that have been to the weddings, I've been to the baby showers, I've been, and I know inherently they can't be racist unless I'm that naive. But it hurts me the fact that at least if you can't get online and do all the social media stuff, because that's not for everybody, and I'm talking we're getting blamed for so much stuff, have some empathy in regards to the people that you know around you. You can't change everything. But when I look at it, like I stated, I had a call from my buddy of mine, Chastity, all the way in Idaho or Iowa or wherever the case he's at, in the boonies. Not a lot of people that look like me or that have my same hue. She reached out. My buddy Kurt, he always contacts me. He owns a blind company, and he was like, wait a minute, I grew up with you guys. There's a lot of people out there. We have a lot of allies, but at the same time, some of our allies, some of the people that we buy products from, some of the people that we support, our favorite rappers or favorite singers, aren't speaking out. I was shocked that Taylor Swift said something. Very shocked. I'm loving the fact that we're seeing a lot of these companies, organizations saying things, but I really want to see what their board of directors look like. I want to see what their employees look like, because you can say that you're down with the cause and everything. It's the blaming aspect, and just to reiterate, getting accused and not being able to be treated or being treated inhumanely when it comes to the allegations with social media. Back in the days with the Central Park 5, and they made a big spiel about it, and they did. Imagine if that didn't get to Netflix. A lot of people lost their jobs, but I lost my job, I lost everything. The lady in the park, I lost everything. People are losing their lives off of a lie.
Yeah.
If people don't follow the story with Emmett Till, allegedly at the end when the young lady who made the story up, when she passed, she told the truth on her deathbed. A lie. And that's what upsets me, because you have one aspect of social media and people being nervous to speak up and being silent, but it feels good if you can just reach out or even tell the people in your circle, tell your buddy, tell the friends that you can affect, hey, we saw him get murdered on TV. Don't bat your eye to it, and I don't want to see it. The thing that gets me, another group of people that have been silent are the Christian leaders. All these big pastors that have all these African American and Hispanic followers or members. Where you at? Christianity, we were supposed to come to the United States and have freedom of speech. First Amendment. Pretty much everyone knows the United States Christian, for the most part.
Well,
Labeled
it's not
Christian.
officially Christian, but
Labeled Christian or assumed to be.
yeah.
We're in Christianity where we're supposed to get treated like dogs, and you know, people use the Christianity moniker for their own agenda sometimes. Why is it that treat your brother with, you know, equally? Treat your brother equally. Thou shalt not kill and all this. But a lot of these cops and a lot of these people is judge and jury right there on the forefront. Oh, I felt threatened. There's so many social media posts about people running away from the cops. If I thought, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that if you feel threatened, you shoot. If you're running away, you're supposed to shoot somebody in the back. They're running away.
Well, actually, I did hear someone mention, and I've thought about this myself. If you're going to shoot someone who's running away, why don't you shoot him in the leg? Why are you killing him?
Listen, the way that we react to a lot of these different things is it's daunting to say the least, because then you have us black Christians, us black Muslims, us all these people with good spirits that are not inherently racist, and some people are not educated. They just react and respond off of emotion. We always have to turn the other cheek. We always have to, like I mentioned to you before about the young man that was killed by the police officer. Not only once, but the one that was sitting in his home, and the female cop in Texas went in and shot him.
Well, she went into the wrong apartment.
Went into the wrong apartment, allegedly, and shot him. And then you see that judge come down and hug her. You see the family member give him a hug. You see people, everyone says, oh, that's a good black guy. That, how can you be a person and not see that, wait a minute, this is kind of weird. Every time we do something to you all forgive us and hug us, because we always have to play this Christianity aspect. And that's a whole nother topic, because they act as though, you know, they introduce us to Jesus. When you look at it, the Garden of Eden, that's all over in that continent of Africa per se. And you can do your research and all that. But it's just so funny when I talked to you about it before, and people need to look up the Lynch Letters, is pretty much how to train a slave or how to conduct with a slave. They taught different ideologies and different techniques. Trust us. Don't believe the people, you know, they use different tactics to harm the biggest and black buck, as my grandfather would call it, or the biggest and black slave or the strongest slave, and they would beat him and whip him. If you don't listen to this, listen to me, this will happen to you. So those Lynch letters, in the letters it specifically says, if you teach us this will last generations. And it's happening now, because you see all this stuff happening. We're protecting police, we're protecting, and that's our human loving heart. These are innocent people sometimes. We always got to protect them, but we're getting killed, and who is there to protect us?
Yeah.
But if you look around, I mean, there's so many allies now, like the young girl we saw today on social media crying and videotaping her parents. Like, there's so many of these youths now that are stepping up, and it makes me excited and happy to see there may be a sense of change.
I'm worried about her parents, though.
Well, I mean, her parents are going to be there. That is, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we tend, and like you know, those of y'all have African American, Hispanic, Asian friends, or whatever the case may be, because there's so many different inconsistencies that we have going on in all of our communities. But when we can reach out and speak and have some dialogue and use that loving spirit, everyone, they want to say, don't jump to judgment, let's see all the facts. We're getting killed off of a reaction of fear, jealousy, ties back into what I was saying, and how we tend to get blamed for so many different things. Central 5, the bird watching, and if you want to talk about the Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they had Black Wall Street, they're going to do a story on that finally. It was where, I know that you mentioned it, we were taught and promised so many 40 acres in the mule and different things like that. But just to let you know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and people can look into that, that was where blacks had their own banks, schools, police department, doctors,
called
lawyers.
Black Wall Street, I think.
Black Wall Street. Someone made up a story and said that black man did something to a white woman. I think stepped on a foot or something of that
I don't know if
nature.
it was a rape or a
Rape, it's always something.
Some
I
kind
mean,
of
you know,
an
they're
some kind of an
either you
accusation.
playing football and you getting accused by some kid that said they raped you, and your scholarships, we're getting accused, or you getting, there's allegations. Like I said, I've been through it. A lot of people been through it. But back to the Tulsa, Oklahoma, they burned that place down, murdered people off of jealousy.
They destroyed it. They destroyed
it. And people always say, well, how come y'all don't do it for yourselves? Every time we try, we get something happens, allegedly. So go ahead. You said, because I was talking about this.
It, in my mind, it kind of grew out of the 40 acres and a mule thing, where after the Civil War, or towards the end of the Civil War, one of the Union generals had promised the freed blacks that they would get some of the confiscated land. They would get 40 acres of the land. And after actually starting that program, it was reneged. It was withdrawn. So then I thought to myself, I'm familiar with the Oklahoma land rush, and I was wondering how many blacks participated in the Oklahoma land rush. And although I don't know numbers, there were quite a few. Where the Oklahoma Territory was opened to settlers. You could, in fact, they almost like had a race that it started in a certain day, and you went out there as quickly as you could
and pick what you can.
Staked out what you could, and apparently there were several black communities that were started that were very successful, as I understand. But unfortunately, during the Depression, everything kind of fell apart. So.
And I know that sometimes, like with anything else, like if somebody, a white man or a white poor guy wanted your land, some people's land were getting took from them. I mean, you know, we did it to the Indians. And it's just funny, just a side note on how we always talk, when I remember Hillary Clinton and other people saying that these young black teens are savages. And I'm like, this country was built, the blood of this flag that people cry about so much was built off of the blood of black folk. And speaking of that, it's just funny because when we had our black president, and I'm just, segue into that just briefly. People complain, oh, Obama didn't do this, Obama couldn't do that, and do anything for our, black townships or our black community. But people don't understand everything Obama did, and please make note of this, everything he tried to put out, it was blocked. Everything. And he's still getting accused of things to this day. Not even in the presidency. I mean, not in the House, in the White House. Everything, well, a lot of things that he tried to implement got blocked, got turned down. He even talked about having this whole program for the pandemic, the COVID-19 that we're dealing with. That got turned around. The whole, the healthcare situation. There's a lot of things in place that people don't realize. We're listening to the media again, and we're not really reading or looking into the truth. And so what we're doing is, for those that do not want to read or look into things of that nature, we're going to provide you with information and provide you with links in regards to talk about this stuff. And what I wanted to talk about is, you go through, not only went through racism, we went through the reasons why people protest, and you're talking about the flag and how Kaepernick kneeled, and we get
talking about our friend Drew Brees,
and our buddy Drew Brees just recently
made
a statement. And you got to realize there's a difference between rioters, looters, and peaceful protesters. It's odd because Drew Brees knows better.
Let me read the Drew Brees statement.
Just real quick, but let me explain something to you so you'll know where I'm coming from. It's like when you discuss something with someone that is affected by a certain issue, and you always fight it and you fight it and you fight it, that hurts that person. He has people on his football team like, bro, we're dealing with something major, and you're talking about some personal issues with your grandfather rather, and the flag. I mean, it's like, you got to be more empathetic, bro. It's like you're talking about your grandfather. There was blacks that fought in World War II that came home and were hung from trees in their uniforms. Do your research.
But this is the problem. I don't think he really understands what he's saying. This is what he said. I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States. In many cases, it brings me to tears thinking about all that has been sacrificed, and not just in the military, but for that matter, those throughout the civil rights movements of the 60s, and all that has been endured by so many people up to this point. Doesn't he understand that the reason that Kaepernick Kaepernick, I'm sorry, is because the things that the civil rights movement stood for are not being honored. And it's
ding, 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 ding.
And if you look at even why we're here at all,
treated equally.
The things that happened after the Civil War in the southern states to try and oppress black people constantly.
Research.
That's why we have the problem that we're having today. This business about the 40 acres and then
never
withdrawing.
Or people telling, this is what kills me. Like I said, when you're telling someone, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. How do you do it? You all talk about, oh, be more like Martin Luther King. You killed him. Be more like this person. You killed them. Be peaceful. Kaepernick was sitting down at first. Then one of the military guys said, hey, it'll be more respectful if you kneel. Everyone turned it about the flag and forgot about the guy getting killed. So that's what I said, that tolerance, empathy. It's where is this Christian mindset? Where is this humanistic
no, the flag is more important, Jason.
And they talk about the flag. It's not about the flag, but if you really want to get into it, our blood is stained with the flag.
Well, the flag is stained with your blood.
That part. It's all the same thing. We're in there. And I mean, it's just funny because this narrative that the media is pushing, and I'm so happy that technology allowed us to come out and we can say our own stuff, but it's harmful because you got these kids in the social media doing the whole neck challenge and all this craziness. And then when people are attacking you, listen, you all, change. Look at all the stuff that's happened. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, JFK, there was a lot of different things that are happening, and people are trying to be peaceful, but it seems like it's going on deaf ear. You got, Drew Brees, you know better, bro. But there's a lot of people out there that have that same mindset.
But now,
and like I said, why is it that? I mean, this is what was killing me. We never had the same opportunities. When people say, "Oh, they're poor," they never won it, they never tried. People really believe that we had the same starting point. We started years later. We didn't have the same opportunity.
We started years later.
Yeah, never started.
It never started. It was. This is the thing I don't understand. I don't understand why people don't understand. The whites had everything in 1865 when the blacks were freed. Whites had everything, and they gave the blacks nothing. And the little that they tried to give them, a few people tried to give them, the rest of the people complained about, and they took it back. They kept them as sharecroppers. They created laws. My God, they tried to put them in debt.
Yeah, for the rest of their life. And sit there. So when you see that guy working at that Piggly Wiggly for 60 years.
Okay, but look at this, Jason. As a freed slave, you have no money, you have nothing. How do you buy your food? Well, you have to borrow. But once you borrow, how do you pay it off? You have to work. But you kind of never pay it off. So in essence, they converted you from a slave to
an indentured servant.
More or less. But I mean, it was systematic. It was done on purpose, and it was done for years and years and years. Jason,
we're going to talk about this tomorrow on our episode because you guys, there's a lot of laws. And just briefly, Mississippi just signed the 13th Amendment. Look that up. In what year?
1995.
95.
The 13th Amendment.
And people are always talking about this was years ago. Slavery was years ago.
The 13th Amendment is the amendment that freed the slaves, in essence, in the Constitution.
Listen to me when I tell you this. Mississippi just signed off in 95. That's why they keep things in books so people do not read, so people do not understand, or people do not find out. So when you see a lot of your friends, instead of getting angry, and that's the first thing that comes to your mind, you're going to be angry. But if we can use love and educate, but if they're not listening, that's when you have this uproar. That's when you have people doing the protests. And some people are upset. There's going to be some bad apples that loot and riot because they're upset. They've been back against the wall because they are always told, don't do it this way. Don't do it that way. There's another way. What other way?
But I'm a little afraid that we sound as if we're condoning the stuff that's going on.
No, none of
And
that.
we're
But
we're
you
not
got to
condoning
understand.
it, but we're saying that you have to understand where these people are coming from, and there has to be a systemic change because there's a reason that they're doing it. They're not well. There's reasons some people are doing it. Some people are doing it for bad purposes, but some people are just they can't take it anymore because
Right.
the same thing keeps happening time
Over and over
after
again,
time
right.
after time. And going back to the police, they don't learn. They think what they do is okay. Guys, let me tell you, it's not okay. You need to conduct yourself as a human being. Yes, you're a policeman, but you're a human being. So act with some common decency, please.
And there it is right there, people. You heard it from Mr. Man over here. Acting with some decency. And I mean, my biggest thing is we always don't have the answers. I mean, when we're going to start posting as much as we can to educate and really just have dialogue, because our main thing, we just pretty much wanted to have a safe and healthy place for dialogue and for people to feel comfortable. Safe for the most part, because, we still got the COVID right here. And we just wanted to bounce off ideas because you really don't know resolutions. We don't have all the answers, but we want to create a dialogue so people can understand that. I want to know that, like I said before, that people are watching the stuff that they see. People are watching the fact that those looters, those rioters, recently there was some stuff that happened in Santee. A lot of the things that happen, a lot of these things that are going on, this anarchistic, is it mindset in a sense, is these people are creating a lot of this chaos. Look at the social media that is being posted. They are not looking like black folks, but they're steadily tagging Black Lives Matter. Who in your right mind, it's 2020, unless you're a gangbanger, is tagging Black Lives Matters and things of that nature? You got to realize, people, look around you. Stuff that is happening, it's not all us. There's some people, and you see that more than not. I saw on a lot of the big news networks, you see people of color looting. But on social media, you see people walking in Nordstrom's, people coming out with cheesecakes from different places and stuff. Cheesecakes. But then these black folks are getting shot with, the lady in La Mesa being shot with rubber bullets. And these rubber bullets are huge. They're not little small bean bags. And some of these cops nowadays that are on their walkie-talkies saying stuff that they thought was off the record. Remember, everyone's mic is hot. Everyone's mic is hot. And then what about some of these guys that are turning off their cameras and people are miraculously dying?
You bring up an interesting point.
We're going to bring you all topics, and we're going to look, because we'll set up a situation where you all can either email us, text us, or let us know on some sort of social media platform questions that you may have that you want to bring to the attention to the media, to us, so we can get it out to those people that are looking and just hearing our voices and discuss these various and very, very, very uncomfortable topics. But in order for change, if it doesn't affect you, you have to be uncomfortable. And I'm thankful that you're here. I'm thankful, again, to all my friends out there that are texting and sending messages and just doing what they can. I got a call from one of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, Amanda Dilks. She was just, standing with us. She's in Texas. She got, like I said, my girl Chastity. So I'm getting people in different places. Miss Luna out there in the South, in the Carolinas. She's just, sending energy, sending good vibes and stuff. There's a lot of people out there. We do have allies. Treat people with respect. Treat people with love. The humane aspect needs to be there. If you're this true Christian, you're a true believer, whatever you believe in, human. Just remember, these people are human. I'm one of those people.
Huh? You?
Exactly, yeah. Might be a werewolf at night or a shark sometimes, allegedly. But, keep a smile on your face. Again, this is Jason and Brian. Pretty much we want to meet with you all throughout the week. We wanted to do this once a week, but we're probably going to do it more than that. Brian is going to do a whole series in regards to educating folk on the electoral vote. which is huge. Again, please be kind. Please be empathetic.
And try to do the right thing.
And try to do the right thing. You all take care. Love everyone. Hold on. This person has been bugging me. Come here, Coco. This person has been bugging me, so you can see. Maybe this will help out. Hold on, Coco. She's fat, but this is... I'll have to zoom in on this part. This is Coco because she almost killed me. To let everybody know that I love animals. Well, let me say this. So we're signing off. Alarm went off. I just want to let everybody know that we love animals too. So this may put a smile on people's faces. This is Coco. And this is Jealous Honey. Come here, honey. Sorry about that, Coco. She thinks she's my girlfriend. But we love everybody. Everybody be prepared for new meetings. Not necessarily prepared, but we'll come back to you. Coco almost bit my ear off, but yeah. We'll come back to you. She didn't kiss me in the mouth. But everybody have a good day. Talk to you soon.